I didn't hit go live. Now we're live.
you hit the timer, but then it didn't go live.
Welcome to the offseason.
Now we're live?
Yeah. Now we're getting some preseason reps.
Oh.
So we were just talking.
Also had a lovely intro.
Yeah.
Did the intro
It was beautiful.
and named our sponsor, which is Barclay for Two Sports Club. He's going to be at the National in Cleveland, Ohio. Bill Landis and I will be there. I'm Austin Ward. That's Jeremy Birmingham, who did not go live on our first road break of the 2024 season. When I said I was so excited to be with you guys again, and now that's all gone. You only heard it, and not the rest of the world.
Preseason's all about reps. It's an important one.
We even cracked beers at the exact same time.
It was a great in unison beer cracking. Everything sounded great. Really good job on the intro. Sorry about that. The preseason's about reps, and it's been a while. When you don't do these little mechanical things on a daily basis, you can forget things like hit the go live button, which I forgot. Also, I apologize. I know so many of you are waiting for this show to look at me, but now the sun is really up here.
Just go close the blind.
There's no blind there to close. I tried to pull down the thing, but I broke it.
So we're off to a flying start. We have some Panini Contenders 2023 to open. Shout out to Card Culture 2 for that. We have Sun King Brewery. I mentioned it before. You might not know. We went for dinner. Sun King Caramel. What do you got there?
This is the Orange Vanilla Sunlight. So if you hip, you know that Sun King's cream ale Sunlight is probably the best cream ale in the Midwest. And
maybe the world. This
orange vanilla version of it is magnifique.
I have the Pachanga Mexican style lager. I also had the orange vanilla while we were eating dinner. The place was fantastic. It was a great place to kick off the season. I mentioned that before, but
you didn't hear it.
You didn't hear it
because of me.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Subtext. The call went out for questions. Berm's got the laptop up. Did we get any?
I want to be very honest. How much we appreciate you. So I sent out a text at 7:32 asking for questions for this episode of Road Breaks. And by the time I opened the computer at 7:45, there were 46 different texts. So that's pretty good on a Monday night.
Not bad.
We appreciate everyone's response. And I think, I don't know, should I go top to bottom or bottom to top?
Just go with what you feel. Yeah.
I'm going to go top to bottom because bottom to
top.
Well,
we're not going to answer all 46.
No, too late. We got
to see what happens.
Oh, no. Good thing Raw's on the screen.
Okay, Kevin F. How concerned are you and the staff with losing TC Caffey as a nice depth piece of the running back room?
Does that mean like the staff or the coaching staff?
Let's just play along and say everyone.
I mean, I don't think that it was a coincidence that Ryan Day was like, you know what? Caleb Downs might need to be involved at running back. Bill asked the question about the running backs being Ryan Day was available to go.
Which one would you like?
You get to pick.
That one.
Okay. That way you can only blame yourself when it's not as hot as you want. You asked about some element of surprise about or how seriously Ohio State considered it a transfer portal addition, and that's when the Caleb Downs exploded in June with Ryan Day mentioning that. Really, for what seemed like no good reason. I don't know specifically when TC Caffey was injured. Ryan Day is going to be talking about that on Tuesday when we get to Lucas Oil State. But they have 4 scholarship running backs, and TC Caffey was the security blanket, I think, that allowed Ohio State to not have to pursue somebody else. So I do think there's some level of significance. Have to get, again, we've to spot number 5. Ohio State's probably got other problems.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I mean, you don't want to lose a depth piece anywhere, and I think he was viewed as that. And ideally, you'd have 4. It's again, we mentioned this before. It's a unique problem to Ohio State, where you like actually legitimately worry about the 4th and 5th running back because we've seen Ohio State get to that position not that long ago. So I wouldn't say that it's concerning. I think it sucks because I do think TC was going to play an important role on this team this year, and now he won't get the opportunity to do that. But I think Ohio State will be okay with 4 running backs.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, if you get down to the 5th running back, there's other issues that you have to be concerned about. I do think it is a uniquely Ohio State concern, not even like the Ohio State lost to a walk-on number 5 running back who they do think is good enough to be on scholarship. And there was obviously some discussion about that this offseason. But things have gone so well since the end of the season for Ohio State from a PR perspective, from a news perspective, that if you remarkable.
Right.
And so, yeah, it sucks for TC. But again, this is not a knock on TC in any way, shape, or form. I've said it half a
You've
dozen
been very
times.
high on him since he was in high school.
But Caleb Downs is probably the 3rd best running back on the team right now.
A big old air bubble just making its way down.
I hope it
I
stays
thought
in.
he caused it. I
I
thought you were worried about how deep he was going to go and that Caleb Downs is going to play.
I think Caleb Downs is probably the 3rd best running back on the team right now. If you would have ranked them as far as their high school accolades at the position and what they were able to accomplish, Caleb Downs is a legitimate all Big Ten, all American type running back talent. He is that good. Now for Ohio State, you don't have to go
Why
there.
does he want to play safety instead of running back?
I don't know. I assume because
He's better at it.
He's better at it, and it's a wider scope. You get to do more. I think. But yeah,
doesn't go that.
thank you for the question, Kevin F. We're going to go to the next question. Alex Ritterhausen asks a handful of cues. Which member of the podcast crew is the worst to travel with? And then he
In what way?
And then he begins to answer the question, and he says, Austin because he seems a little pretentious with a taste in beer and food. Bill because he looks like he unloads some parts. Firm because he probably makes obscure pop culture references from 1996 that no one gets.
This Alec, you were a keen observer of the human condition.
Doug because he's weird. I mean, all those things are.
It's definitely Doug.
It's pretty accurate. All those things are pretty spot on. And I'm beginning. Is this an inside job, Alex? Who are you? How do you know so much about us? All those things are right. Honestly, I've never heard Bill fart.
Strap in, buddy. I had an Italian beef sandwich for dinner.
You actually haven't traveled enough with him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to complain about that.
I traveled with him.
Can I ask you guys a question? Do you fart in front of your wives? Do your wives fart in front of you?
Without question.
My wife and I have never farted in front of each other.
What's wrong with you?
I don't know. That's what I asked. We never have. It's never been a thing.
I didn't know that liking craft beer was pretentious.
No. Liking craft beer isn't pretentious. Demanding craft beer only is pretentious.
The base cards are shiny.
Where they finally changed those away from the retail.
Austin, a quick sidebar from the truth. He asked, "Do you miss living in Wyoming?"
Absolutely, I miss living in Wyoming. I mean, I've now lived in Ohio longer than I have anywhere else in my life. Now that I'm at the 12-year mark in Columbus, I can't really picture living anywhere else. I used to joke and tell people that if I could cover the importance of college football and make a decent living the way that I get to, and I'm blessed to, covering Ohio State and live in Wyoming. If Wyoming football was actually important.
I'm just trying to stay out of the summer.
I know. That's where I would prefer to live. But I'm not sure that's any longer true because Ohio, I've been there so long. Columbus, and I love Northwest Columbus. It's where Liberty was born and where now that side of my wife's family, all the brothers live there. Those are the guys I play golf with. I really can't picture living anywhere else anymore. So now I don't want to.
You know what's weird is that, whenever I see your daughter, I think of that Liberty Mutual commercial, obviously, and I sing it all the time.
Liberty.
But
not that one.
Yesterday, that one too. Yesterday, I was driving and I heard the song "American Soldier" by Toby Keith, and he's like, "When Liberty is in jeopardy," and I was like, "Do you ever sing that to her? If she falls down the steps?"
She'd be very worried. It sounded like she was in jeopardy.
I put my first auto.
What do we got?
Offensive lineman, Osiris.
I am so washed out from the sun. I'm sorry. Tony Miller asks, would the Buckeyes be better off with their playoff game in a nearby dome instead of a potentially bad weather at the Horseshoe? I'm not sure the home field is a real advantage with the Buckeye passing attack, thinking about how well Stroud played in Atlanta, etc. CJ Stroud is not the quarterback on this team.
This team is built around the football.
Thank God. I get it. I pristine condition. play your playoff game at home if you have the opportunity to.
Home field advantage in the horseshoe. What we assume is going to be a much better rushing attack and the best defense, maybe on paper in Ohio State history. That game, if it got to that point, it's got to be in Ohio State.
Got to play it on Ohio State. Plus, you're making an SEC team, slightly. Go up to Columbus.
Which they never do. I've received 2 sparkly cards, a supernatural Will Levis.
Is that numbered?
It does not appear to be numbered, but I can't. And a hall pass. My wife is going to be pissed. She was not expecting a hall pass on this trip, but it happened. I did get my first auto. It's Imari DiMercato, a running back
On the market.
This could be promising.
running back for
I've got
the
an
Arizona Cardinals. So
auto out of 10.
That's what you want.
Auto out of 10. Sauce.
Oh, my.
Sauce
a
Gardner.
Sauce Gardner out of 10.
Out of 10.
I don't like to go from the bottom, but I saw that CJ Stroud was hanging out down there. So we have a supernatural of CJ Stroud is not renewed. But there is no shame.
So I got a supernatural of Will Levis.
I got a supernatural
So basically the same thing.
of Jamar Chase.
Except one is way better than the other. Bill, have you ever opened a Contenders hobby box?
This is the first time.
Me too.
Yeah, I've actually not opened like a ton of NFL hobby boxes.
Bill Yakoff 22
What's up, Yakov?
wants to know, how did you develop such an interest in offensive line play, which he agrees is obviously vital.
By being one. I did not play football very long, but that's the position I played. Briefly played defensive line. Probably wasn't quite athletic enough to be any good at that. So I moved over to the offensive line and played guard and tackle, and that's kind of how it started. I have an appreciation for the men who are my size but far more athletic than I have ever been or ever will be.
I also have that appreciation.
Yeah,
for them. I just
so
don't
so
understand
that's
it.
how, and also like it's just an underdiscussed part of football in general. So I like to shine a light on it.
Curtis wants to know if you could help. Which NIL collective is the better one to donate to? I originally thought 1870, but it seems like the foundation is doing more.
I agree.
I think that there's going to be a fundamental shift probably in the way that NIL is handled. And so I think at some point it's not really going to matter because I think they're both going to be funneled into the same place.
Yeah.
That being said, I think we do see a lot more of the foundation's stuff as far as being online and in your face. But 1870 does a lot of stuff with the current players as well. And I really don't think you can go wrong either way as long as you're helping the cause because the cause needs help.
Yeah. It did seem like there was a point about a year ago where
Stupid redemption.
It could be a good one.
Puka Nakua.
It's not bad.
Are you complaining about like one of the best autos that you can hit?
Yeah, but it's not here. It's just a.
Yeah, I get that.
It seemed like
it doesn't say it's numbered either.
one second.
It says sport, football, program, 2023 playoff contenders, card, rookie variation, conference ticket, RPS.
That's a huge card.
That's a massive
Card
card.
number.
That's a huge card.
Cool. Then I mean,
Oh, it's not here though. I'll just take it. No problem.
Those are out of 23, right?
it's not here.
The number for
Well,
the
just
year.
throw it away then. Don't.
I'll
go check the.
I got very excited because I popped another auto and I saw a Seahawks helmet. Instead of Jackson Smith, it's Bobo.
My first auto was Nesta Jade Silvera. So that
Ohio State recruited him.
They thought they had him, and then
I'll
he
trade it
went
for
to Miami.
the Puka RPS.
Brian DeGroff asked for a re-discussion about what we're drinking. We're drinking orange vanilla sunlight from Sun King Cream Ale, Sun King Brewery Cream Ale, and Austin's drinking their Mexican lager, which is also excellent.
Zinga.
Anyway, I'll finish that thought. A year ago, it did feel like Ohio State was more consciously shifting towards 1870 for football, but then they got into, I think, the foundation. Whether it's accurate or not to say that they stepped up their game, I don't know. But when they were going through the offseason process and, working through roster retention, all those things, the foundation was very much a key part of that. So I'm not sure that there is a wrong answer. If you want to get to a collective, whichever one you think suits best, go for it. I wish maybe for the fans' sake that they offered either one offered more in return. Whether that's like
a little clarity on exactly where it's all going to.
Did you guys pull Supernatural inserts?
I got
my
one.
first pack.
Can I see what they look like? I didn't know if this was like something special.
On a scale of 1 to 10, Kevin also asked, how excited are you to get back on the road to share road breaks together? Pretty excited. The last month has felt a little doldrummy, but we enjoy being around each other, generally speaking.
10 out of 10 for me. I'm excited for the season. I'm excited to have more to do. And I like being out with Tom and Bill.
Andrew Romer asks, good evening. I live in Atlanta, but try to get back home to Ohio once a year for a home game and for family. I haven't been able to justify spending what it takes to get into the game. This year, my wife is letting me choose either that, the game against Michigan on November 30th, or the national championship game here in Atlanta. Do you think the game is the best bet, or if all goes to plan, would it be better to hold out and watch them win a national championship? One caveat, I am a mess if we lose the Wolverines, and I would be scared if I spent that kind of money to experience it live, losing that even much less painful.
Fascinating. I would say
go to the game that you know for sure is going to happen. And then if Ohio State beats Michigan and makes it to the national championship and you live in Atlanta and your wife has already acknowledged that she's going to let you go to the game, and she's not – I don't know your wife, Andrew, but if you need to put her on the phone with me, I will convince her to let you go to both if Ohio State's in the national championship game.
See, you're cheating. That's not the question.
The question is, go to the game you know is going to happen, because you will get to go to both, because your wife will not keep that from you.
it's just going to be an all-timer.
And tell her it's your Christmas present. She'll get over it.
Here's the thing.
Alex,
They're going to play Michigan every single year.
Fields Hall pass.
I think after the last couple of years, I could understand in Ohio State wanting to be there for this current losing streak to end, which it's going to in November. But like, you could make up for that and go to another one in Ann Arbor next year or the following year back in the Horseshoe. It's going to be expensive, even if you live in Atlanta to go to the national championship. I think this could be one of the most historic seasons in Ohio State history. I would hold out, especially if he's saying he doesn't think he could suffer it if he was there and they lost. Well, hold out. Like there's less risk that way. You'd think you could stomach the national title game and any results, and it's in your backyard. Go to that game.
Let me ask you this, Andrew. And this is a serious question. If Ohio State beats Michigan, if you know anyone that existed in 2002 and went to the Ohio State game against Michigan and was there in the Horseshoe when Ohio State beat Michigan 14-9 to go to the Fiesta Bowl against Miami, and then people who went to the Miami game, also, which game mattered more for them to be at? Probably 50-50, because it had been 34 years since Ohio State won a national championship at that point. Being there, if they beat Michigan this year, will mean something a whole lot more. What is it?
The last sale of that redemption that you pulled was $355.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm not going to get it
We'll
for another year.
see, he says.
No, just sell the ticket.
I'm not going to get So
It's not the actual card. It's just the redemption is worth that.
Okay, cool. I don't know how you guys do these things. There's a fight on TV.
It's professional wrestling.
What, this is scripted?
No,
It looks very real.
it is real because Gunther has been very critical of Damian Priest.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Bad news.
Bryce Stamoff asks, do you think Chris Henry is the same level of prospect as J.J. Smith, or is there a gap there? There's a gap there. J.J. Smith is absurd. Chris Henry has the chance to be the best player in the country in his class, which is not something to scoff at, obviously. And his size is insane. But J.J. Smith, the size, the speed, the natural ability, the pressure that's been on him doing this since he was in 8th grade. J.J. Smith is something ridiculous. And that's not to put down Chris Henry at all. But next question that Saint asked, assuming David Sanders is a Buckeye at the moment, what do you think could go wrong in the next month to change that from happening? What could go wrong, Bryce, is assuming that David Sanders is a Buckeye at the moment. That is not something that you should assume. This is still a fight between Ohio State and Tennessee. The interesting thing is that this coming week, now we're in a live period for recruiting.
You hit as well?
Yeah.
I got a Devon A. rookie cracked ice ticket redemption.
Oh my God.
I don't.
Meanwhile, I've got Andre Carter II out of 55.
I'm not expecting David
Got
Sanders.
the wrong box over here.
As of Monday, July 22nd, I asked some people this morning, do they expect him to visit anyone today or this week? And the answer was, at this point, no. but we'll see if that changes. But what could go wrong is that things go wrong. Ohio State is doing everything they can to land David Sanders, but Matthew Bergeron auto.
Ohio State.
Are we supposed to get 5 autos a box?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have 4.
What's the next cue?
Jordan Love. I got a winning ticket. Josh Allen. I don't know what this is, but it's kind of
The Josh Allen collector.
He's a professional Will Howard.
I also got a Justin Fields Hall Pass. These are cool
so
cards.
yeah.
Although they should be die cut at the top, actually.
Yeah.
Hanging on your door.
Jim R. Priester says, I have strong opinions that your favorite athlete should be older than you. As you age, it should move from idolizing to rooting for. It's weird when grown men idolize a kid. Do you agree with that notion? Yes. But I think that rooting for and favorite of in this context are kind of the same. At least for me anyway, because when you get to know these kids and when it comes to Ohio State now, even someone that grew up like a big fan of Ohio State football, I don't consider myself an Ohio State fan, or I don't have any of these kids who are my favorite athlete anymore. They're like my just favorite people on the team, and I root for them to succeed as humans, not because what they do on the field. Like CJ Stroud, you can admire what he does and be like, wow, that dude is crazy good at what he does, but if CJ Stroud was a douchebag, I wouldn't feel the way I feel about him as a human because we've got to know him. So I don't disagree with the notion, Jim, but I do think that for younger people, especially, it conflates idolize with favorite a little bit. But as we get older, I don't feel like there's someone who I'm.
So for teams that I'm like a passionate fan of, let's say the Columbus Crew, I don't own a Cucho jersey. I personally wouldn't wear a Cucho jersey, but I have a tremendous appreciation for watching him play. And I'm glad that he's on my favorite team. So I don't know that idolize is the word that I use for.
I don't know who that is. Who's Cucho? Is he the dog in that Stephen King movie?
That's Cujo.
He was the goaltender for the St. Louis Blues. I remember that. I idolized him when I was younger.
Curtis Joseph.
Yes.
You need to read a book, bro.
Cucho.
He's the best player team in MLS.
Huh. Austin, if you received an offer to cover the Bengals or Browns full time, would you consider it?
No.
Pass.
I definitely wouldn't have answered that question so definitively or quickly 20 years ago. And in some ways, covering Ohio State specifically has become like an NFL beat. But the travel demands of covering an NFL team, the length of the season, the way that it demands your time really from January to January is really not for me anymore. You could expand that to Indians or Reds or Cavs or anything else. I don't know. I'm not wired to do that the way that I might have thought 20 years ago. Bill, I think you probably agree with that as well.
There was a time not that long ago where I was very interested in an NFL job. When I was at the Athletic, I had an eye on trying to move to the NFL staff. Never materialized. At this point, I'm kind of glad it didn't, for all the reasons you said. But yeah, there was a time for covering college football was the goal of mine when I first got into journalism, and I was very fortunate to basically start covering Ohio State. And like anybody else, in your job, you want to move up in the world. Although covering an NFL team is not necessarily moving up in the world from Ohio State. I'd rather cover Ohio State than a bad NFL team. But, it was appealing to me at the time.
I think it's just weird because I think about covering Ohio State, and I imagine for capital J journos, you could view this as just a job covering a college team, but it is honestly that you can't find.
This is the most important college football job.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird for me because I don't into this job, how I got so lucky to do it, but it definitely is it's a trip. Will the new Buc-ee's in Huber Heights jump to the top of roadside stops
Wait,
for you
what?
once it opens?
Oh yeah,
There's a Buc-ee's in Huber Heights.
Well, it's coming.
not yet. It's under construction. They just cleared. I think the headline said last hurdle cleared, and
Wow.
construction is going to be.
I'll tell you what, man, that area is popping off because that's where the Wawa is going to be too.
Ooh, a
Well,
little combo.
Wawa is going to.
And there's a Sheets over there.
Immediately out of business.
So I got-
There's also a Philadelphia pretzel factory.
So I got 5 autos and the redemption
That's great.
in this box.
And yet you're still going to
And
complain
this-
about it. So
This one, Matthew Bergeron, is a silver out of 50
You went to Syracuse.
auto. I mean, none of the other. I mean, Xavier Hutchinson rookie auto is good. Osiris Torrance, not bad, but obviously the
Do we get to see? I
Fuka
also
Nakua.
got
pretty good.
my last auto was Daniel Scott, safety for the Indianapolis Colts.
I'm getting annihilated by this box. I have Isaiah Foskey, Andre Carter to 55 for some reason. No, I have a license to dominate Christian McCaffrey, which is
So
a
that's a
case
case.
hit.
That's cool.
I don't know what that'll be worth, but
I'm just jumping around now. Can you guys talk about the Connor Stallions documentary? Timing of the release sounds suspect. I don't know when the timing of the release, like
Who's
August,
making it?
August.
Netflix. It's on Netflix. It's part of their 30 for
27.
30 or whatever their behind the
Oh,
scenes
yeah.
or whatever.
sure.
I mean, I can't speak on it because I don't know what they're doing, but I'd be shocked if it's anything more than a fluff piece for Michigan and say like, haha, bite my thumb at you, sir. Like, it's not like it's going to be hard hitting and he's going to reveal all the secrets.
He's in it.
Yeah.
I got a kicker auto. Brandon Aubrey for your Dallas Cowboys.
Bill,
He had a great year for the Cowboys.
Bill, we're gonna rapid fire this. Who plays more snaps, the combo of Kenyatta Jackson or Caden Curry or CJ Hicks?
The combo?
Yep.
Oh boy, that's a really good question. I'll say CJ Hicks.
Austin, this one's for you. Any best guess on kickoff time for the Oregon game? I have a golf tourney that day and need this info.
I believe that game is going to kick off at 3:30 Eastern time.
Steven Steen.
CBS.
Yes.
Steven Steen asks if you could move the Big Ten Media Days to any city, what would you pick? What wouldn't you pick and why? Or any city where a Big Ten team is, what wouldn't you pick and why?
Where a Big Ten team currently is. I don't want it to be in New York City. I would rather it be in Champaign than New York City, to be honest
So
with
that's true.
you. Zach Bourne mentioned this on the Rooster Show earlier today. I thought Chicago was great. It is the Big Ten. They had it right downtown. Players enjoyed going. There were times that it wasn't like you didn't feel like you were necessarily in a football setting, like because you're not on a field like you are at Fussell Stadium. Chicago is probably where it should be. If it was going to be in an actual Big Ten city, I would say it should be in Minneapolis.
Jeffy P asks, do you guys listen to any other OSU podcasts? I answer, and I listen to everyone. It's just what I do because I'm in the car so much. I listen to Bucknuts Morning 5. I listen to Letterman Row. I listen to Cleveland.com still. Am I the only one who does that?
I don't listen to any of them like regularly, but I'll check in on all those from time to time.
I don't listen to podcasts.
Austin, what Turnpike Troubadours album is the best one?
Thriller.
Goodbye, Morgan Street. Is it
Bill,
Morgan Street or Normal Street? I've had a lot of beers.
how concerned should I be about the quarterback position based on NCAA Football 25 by Robert?
I would not base any of your feelings about Ohio State as a team on the
Dude, I think Will Howard's pretty good in that game.
I like playing with Will Howard.
Like, you can move
can
him
run
around
around
quite a
with
bit,
him.
and he's not the greatest passer in the world. It actually feels pretty true to life for me because if I need 3 yards, I can get it with him. But if I also, I throw a lot of touchdowns. Bill, as a native of Philly, are Wario steaks and cheese better than the ones in Philly?
Better than some that I've had in Philly, yes. Better than the best in Philly, no, but very good. They're $20, which is a little off-putting, but they're pretty tasty.
They're importing the flavor.
They do a very nice
There's this
job.
pizza place in Toledo called Brothers Pizza, which imports their water from New York for their dough. And it makes a huge difference. It's the best pizza in Toledo by far. So I wonder if they imported like the bread or something from Philly to make it.
Or I don't know if they do or not. I think it's a local bakery that makes their bread, but the bread's very good. They have a crispy chicken Caesar sandwich that is very good.
on Thursday morning / afternoon when we were heading back from Landis and Blossom. We went to Eddie's famous cheesesteaks in downtown Akron. I think you'd very much enjoy a visit there.
How far is that?
From here, 2 hours. How critical is David Sanders committing to Justin Fry staying at Ohio State? Feels like this is the final chance. I don't think it's critical for him staying at Ohio State, but I don't think he's like if Ohio State goes on and wins the national championship, and Josh Simmons is a second-round pick, and Josh Fryer is a fourth-round pick, and like they have 5 guys drafted, I don't think that's going to be held against Justin Fry. But there is certainly a clock that is taken. Ryan Day was very clear back in December and January when asked about how he's evaluating his assistants. The first thing he said was recruiting. And that is not an accident. I have defended Justin Fry quite a bit and will continue to do so. But I've also said a number of times on Talking Stuff and the podcast we've done, if you don't get David Sanders, it is hard to qualify this 2025 recruiting class as a win no matter what else happens.
Redemption City over here.
Who you got?
Everyone gets it. Redemption. Rookie ticket, variation ticket, RPS. Number 115.
Good. Right?
Yep.
Let's get a couple more rapid fires.
Yeah,
I would have rather had Puka Nacua, and I definitely would have reacted differently if I had pulled it.
I'm not going to answer this one because it is a recruiting question, but I don't want to be the one to answer it because I'm afraid I'm going to come across as being a jerk.
Come on.
Brian Patashi asks, how concerned should we be about wide receiver recruiting right now? Now Brown off the board, and as another big miss, it's looking like one big name this year and 2 smaller names. Seems like Oregon and Alabama random schools are having a much easier go at it. Is OSU suffering from success in recent years? The latter, 100%.
Yeah.
But it's also intentional because you can't pay everyone if you have 5 first-round picks. Like, that's just not the world that we're living in anymore. So, like, get it out of your brain that you're going to have 3 of the top 4 receivers in the country committing to one school. That's just not happening.
I don't think you're sounding like a jerk. I think that's just the reality of the situation. You mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. Both you and I think, separately talked to people at Ohio State about what was going on. It's like, well, are they now in a world where they have to find some development prospects or look in the state of Ohio for guys who might not normally be on Brian Hartline's radar? Well, yeah, because the bill for Jeremy is going to come due every single year until the change.
Yeah, but you also have to worry. I mean, not worry, but there's a lot of discussion, and it's probably worth paying attention to about Chris Henry Jr. maybe reclassifying to the class of 2025. And so then, if that happens, if that were to occur, and then all of a sudden you had Jamie French or Decorian Moore or somebody else in this class, then everything changes again. So Austin's point is very important. This is not a situation where you sign a 4-year contract. Like, that number is going to rise exponentially every single year, and so you just can't do it. So Brian Hartline is made a living being referred to and regarded as the best receiver coach in the country. And now he's going to have to kind of prove it a little bit. Like, he's going to have to pick guys that are a little under the radar and develop them and turn them into first-round picks. And when you got guys,
they're not so. No, he's still going to make his choice from the very best in the country, right? And then it's just not going to be a case where 4 of the top 10 are going to be in Ohio State's recruiting class. They will not be able to. No one can afford that. In a different world, you could do that, and everyone was lining up to play for Brian Hartline. There are equalizing factors now that are going to prevent you from doing that. And that's not a problem.
No. Let me ask you this one. Austin, you've been around a little bit more from a national perspective in different programs. Understanding that the question is, I'm asking it, saying, what's the one thing that it's now public? So when I ask you this question, what has been the biggest secret you've ever had to keep as a member of the media? From Sullivan Clem.
Virginia Tech running the Bear front. Going into the 2014 season.
Biggest secret. Ask the coach at Ole Miss.
Ooh.
Oh.
He's going to ask you what you do well. How do you not like Lane Kiffin, man? Did you see him ripping apart Feinbaum the other day? That's great. That's beautiful. That's magic.
I like it.
I'm still going to keep the secret, but ask the coach at Ole Miss if he wants to talk.
Okay, so I'm wondering if this we got a question from The Truth on YouTube, and I'm wondering if he was at Roosters today hearing some of our off-record conversations.
Oh, no.
He said, if you had an RV, would you consider driving to Oregon?
Absolutely.
Yes. We actually were talking about this today at Roosters. You should watch the live show on YouTube after this is over. But Bill and I said if Ohio State maybe was off the week after Oregon, I'm sorry, before Oregon.
That's the part that
after.
doesn't make sense.
No, after.
You said before.
Because you need the extra days to drive out there.
No, you go to the press conference on Tuesday.
The bye week being after is the only reason that you could have
You
done
hit the road after.
I would love to drive to Oregon this year. I don't know that Austin will let me. But
You can do whatever you want.
I can?
Yeah, if you want to drive there, there is a bye week
Cool.
after Oregon. So if you want to drive back, that's the reason that you could do it, because there will not be any player availability.
Maybe I'll do
probably
both.
all week.
Bill
You're
and I
not,
are,
you're not going to do both.
why not? Bill and I are doing it.
Just cruising across Big Sky
Bill and I are driving to Oregon.
after Dan Landing.
We need, America, we need your best roadmap to Oregon from Columbus. We need the stops along the way. And Bill and I will see you there. Austin, this one's for you because I just really want to hear you answer it. With Quinn Ewers, do you think Ohio State wins the 2023 national title? The answer is unequivocally yes.
Yeah.
Even last year's edition of Quinn Ewers, the unequivocally.
Last year's edition, he's not as good as last year's you think he was.
Was he a point and a half
Was he
better
better
than
than
Kyle
Kyle
McCord?
McCord? Yes, he was better than Kyle
Then
McCord.
Ohio State wins the national championship? And by
I
point and a
don't-
half, I mean on a 1 to 10, not on a per game basis.
I do it like
Here's the thing. This is not in any way a defense of Kyle McCord's season or a suggestion that he would be better on this version of Ohio State. He was not the thing that kept Ohio State from winning a national championship last year, in my opinion.
I don't think he was the thing, but I think if that thing was
I don't think that Quinn Ewers,
1.5%
okay.
better,
I
or,
think
or
Quinn Ewers,
10.5%
I think
better.
Quinn Ewers was unequivocally better than Kyle McCord. Could he have handled the pass rush on the one play that wound up making the difference in their season? I don't think so. I don't think that was the problem.
No, maybe not.
Would he have been able to keep both of his ankles healthy?
Would he have thrown
For
the
the entire-
interception on the second drive of the game in that spot?
I don't know, because I saw him throw some pretty bad interceptions.
Yeah, but they were all like 40 yards downfield. He didn't throw a
Yeah,
lot of.
so he probably wouldn't have thrown it
Right.
on a slant, but he would have
Right,
maybe
he didn't
thrown
throw a
it
lot of
somewhere
4-yard
else. I don't know.
interceptions.
Bill was going to say something. I don't think that Quinn Ewers would have won the national championship for Ohio State last year. I think they had flaws.
What was
across
that flaw? If
Okay.
not for that one position that could have been upgraded by
the running
10%.
game. The running game was not good enough to win a national championship.
I think I agree with that. Actually. But better chance of winning a national championship with there's no doubt about it. I was going to ask. I've seen versions of that sort of like thrown out on social media, and I want people know that it wasn't like a Kyle McCord or Quinn Ewers situation, right? It was a second-year C.J. Stroud or Quinn Ewers situation, and that's how it ended up the way it ended up.
I don't know that people know that, but I assume people know that.
Okay.
But I also think that there's a lot of revisionist history in everything that ever happens. So,
It's the same way with Dwayne and Joe.
right, like it's not always that way. We're going to take a couple more here. These guys are just itching to turn up the volume on this wrestling. Yes.
No, I'm good. I can see what's going on.
What'd you call it? Wrestling BS, as in bold strategies.
Okay.
These wrestling bold strategies that we're seeing.
How dare you disrespect Ron Breaker?
This is a funny question, and maybe not funny, but it's worth reiterating what we've talked about before. Big Ten Media Days. Did Ohio State get put in the bottom tier of teams? Day one has no one. Day two has the cool LA teams with Lincoln Riley. Day three has the playoff contenders from last year: Michigan, Wisconsin, well, not Wisconsin, because Washington, or Oregon. There's now a new UW. Two dubs. Rad, the answer is Ohio State is the one on day one. So to say there is no one is incorrect, because everything's about Ohio State tomorrow.
It's done purposefully so that the national media can come talk to Tony Petitti and Ohio State and leave if they so choose.
And Luke Fickell's going to be there. and Greg Schiano. So there is some other interesting stuff happening, but as far as a big picture national perspective, Ohio State is the clear-cut favorite to win the national championship maybe not clear-cut, but at least one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the country, with Georgia and maybe Alabama, I guess, if you're still considering them, which I suppose you have to. Texas. Like it's a pretty small group of real contenders to start the season, and Ohio State is one. So like everything's about Ohio State tomorrow, and they're not giving people a reason to have to divide their attention.
Mm-hmm. It's on purpose. And Ohio State generally wants to go on day one because they want to be done with it.
Yeah.
Inside baseball.
Okay, Thomas Kirkpatrick. Everyone is touting Oregon as a real threat to Ohio State. However, Dan Lanning has yet to win what we call a big win over a high-quality opponent. What weaknesses do you see in Oregon scheme, personnel, coaching, et cetera, Bill?
I wonder about their defensive line. They did a job of addressing it in the transfer portal. You see those guys actually play together. So they got one of the Michigan State transfers. They got a transfer from Houston, I think. They're going to play tackle. They're kind of young at defensive end, so I question whether or not they're going to be ready in the trenches on that side of the ball. And I think the offensive line will be pretty good. Secondary, again, like revamp it via the portal. So it's just like, are all those pieces going to come together defensively for them? And I think whenever you build through the portal, there's a chance that the answer is no. So we'll see. I don't know that I don't look at them all that comfortable, but they're not a world. Like I think probably right to have like Ohio State, Georgia, Oregon, Texas in a tier of everything else. You're talking about playoff contenders, but if you were to separate teams within, I'd probably put Oregon.
Yeah, it's a lot of proving.
Yeah,
and that's not to say that they won't or that they can't. They certainly have a lot of talent. They may be the fastest team in the country. There's the offense. The offense proved itself last year. Very, very good for understanding their personnel and making the shift from Bo Nix to Dylan Gabriel's. Like it's just a left-handed version of that. Like I think it's a really good fit for them, but you still got to prove it. And they, had two chances last year to really elevate themselves and lost to Washington both times. We'll see. That's going to lead into this next question because we talked about it on the live show on Monday from Kevin F. Assuming the Michigan storyline is the most intriguing non-OSU Big Ten storyline to the 24th season, what is the second? And it has to be Oregon.
Massive. I don't know if I know not everyone watches Kings of Columbus. I didn't watch an episode that I did with a couple beat writers covering Michigan, Oregon, and Penn State, and Tyson Alger covers Oregon and said like this is unequivocally the biggest game that's ever happened in Eugene. So that carries a lot. I think it's that. I think it's two teams that are viewed at the top of the sport going at it in October. I don't know. Nothing else really jumps. Obviously, like going to Penn State is tough. But I think going to Oregon this year is tougher.
Austin, Derry S. You are the coach of Ohio State for the next 2 years.
Congratulations.
You're able to take
how much you need.
You're able to take one offensive player, and one player from defense for the starting lineup for this year. The rest of the team is comprised of backups at each position. Who are you taking?
One
starter on offense and defense, and then the rest. Yep.
I think I would be keeping Jeremiah Smith for the foreseeable future, and I would be keeping Caleb Downs. I think that those are the two best players. I hate when I do this. Jeremiah Smith's upside is the biggest. Caleb Downs' upside is the biggest. Caleb Downs has actually proven it at the college football level. Jeremiah Smith is not. I'm trying so hard not to get ahead of it. What I saw from Jeremiah Smith in March and April was just bonkers. Just can't really stop thinking about what he's done. But if you're trying to keep that for 2 more years, I'm not going to be able to keep Caleb Downs for 2 more years past this. They should be able to do that for Jeremiah Smith. But those are the guys I think that they're already going to be impact players. And if you keep them on your roster for 2 more years, that elevates everybody else around it.
I'm really excited for Ohio State fans, like 4 or 5 weeks into the season, to be hit with the reality that you're going to get 2 more years in Jeremiah Smith after what you see from him at the start of this.
Last question, and we'll leave it here after this. This is from Brian Carter. What have you guys learned from covering last year's quarterback battle, and how will you apply those lessons this year? I ask because I feel like last year's coverage led me to believe that QB play was going to be better than it was.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think just like avoiding that. I do think that you're probably wrong because it's such a complicated position. It's really difficult to get right year after year after year. To just assume that Ohio State was going to do that. So that is the lesson that I learned. I will not assume that anymore, or maybe not assume it as strongly as I did last year.
I think the way it played out when we were having conversations about the battle, I was pretty adamantly, as everyone who watches the podcast knows, in the corner that Ohio State was going to wind up naming Kyle McCord the starter because of the experience factor and knowledge of the system and all those other factors that I talked about ad nauseum then. As it was going on, and Bill and I talked about this, spoiler alert, you'll hear some of this conversation on the podcast daily Tuesday morning, when Ryan Day was saying, well, they're going back and forth and Devin Brown is leading at this point, but then he kind of did some things that go backwards and Kyle did these things and then he went backwards. I think those things were significant in real time. I was still, my mind never changed. They were ultimately going to start the more experienced quarterback, which they did. It was not an endorsement of one's ability over the other. That I think took on a life of its own that I had no control over. But I don't know that I could have changed that much of what was happening in real time. I think that those were warning signals from Ryan Day that it was not a matter of two guys playing at a very high level and elevating each other, and they just couldn't pick because they both were so good. I probably could have adjusted more in the middle of August and been like, they're both doing some things that are problematic, and that's why this is taking longer.
Yeah, but it would have been unfair to assume that based on the way the quarterback play was the previous 5 years.
Yeah.
Like, I think there was, to what Bill said, like an assumption that Ryan Day had not missed yet on quarterback, and it didn't seem like a prudent thing to jump to, well, this year's going to be a step back. And even though that's common sense, I mean, you went from a first-round pick to a first-round pick to a first-round pick. Like, that's no matter how good you are, it's hard to have a first-round pick at quarterback every single year because players are different. And I think that's probably where the biggest mistake was made. It was just assuming some things. And, you know, that's the byproduct of what we'd seen the previous 5 years, not because there was any real sign or, you know, we could have read into Ryan Day's words differently, but why? Like, there had been no reason to read into them. Now, because of that, I think we all head into this year a touch more reluctant to put both feet in the water, even we all think is going to be the starter, but we don't know what that really means.
No idea what it's going to look like,
you know, or what it's going to look like. So I think that's the biggest thing for me. Like, I don't want to be unfair. You know, I'll get accused of wearing scarlet colored glasses or whatever. I don't think it's fair.
Even wearing glasses.
Yeah. I just think it's fair to put on glasses if I'm not wearing them.
Yeah.
And I don't think I should just assume that coaches are lying or coaches are giving coach speak, because we are fortunate to have pretty good relationships with most of the guys in the staff. And if we get a sense that something is not kosher, like, we aren't generally afraid to say it, at least in our own ways of doing so. There was no reason to do that last year. And then, you know, once you put eyes on it of your own and be like, okay, this does not look like how it's supposed to look, then you have to start recalibrating. But I don't think that it was, you know, especially this time of the year last year, I don't think there was anything wrong with the way it was presented. It was just.
Well, if the suggestion is that we did anything like to purposefully mislead about the quarterback situation, I would say that's way off base. Like, that's not what we were doing.
Sometimes you're unintentionally wrong.
Yeah. But all I felt in the middle of camp was that the guy who was going to be the starter was the one who was more experienced. And that's ultimately what Ryan Day decided to do. Like, I didn't arrive at that outcome by flipping a coin or by anything else. Like, that was in real time how I felt. It was what I was hearing, and it is what transpired. Now, did it work out? Did Kyle McCord become CJ Stroud or Justin Fields or Dwayne Haskins? Absolutely not.
Right. And it's not to say Kyle McCord's not going to be a good quarterback. Like,
He's pretty good at the video game.
he may not everyone's made for Ohio State. Like, that's the reality. And he may go to Syracuse and have a great year and end up being, I'm not going to be surprised if Kyle McCord is drafted ahead of Will Howard next year. I'm just going to say it. Like, I'm not going to be surprised if that happens. But
I would be.
I mean, I'm not going to say I'm predicting it, but I'm saying I could see a scenario where it plays out that way. So it's not everything always breaks exactly how you need it to break. This will be the last question.
Breaks? You had a perfect segue.
Yeah. What are you guys hearing about Michigan versus the NCAA? I'm pretty much resigned to the reality that in the current world, there just isn't much the NCAA can do, even to penalize a program in a painful way anymore. Also, can you please summarize whatever the heck the phony catapult crap is about? Catapult crap is phony catapult crap. It was just it's just stuff that was made up to try to obfuscate
don't worry,
pay no attention.
There's no way to sum up nonsense.
As far as what we've heard, there was at least some rumoring that like we would hear an answer from the NCAA before this week happened, and it's now this week according to my watch. And
bombs have been dropped during media days before.
Yeah, I mean it's happened, but I agree with you, JJ. Like it's hard to put any trust in the NCAA to do the right thing.
This is actually the one case where the NCAA has a leg to stand on. It's not NIL impermissible recruiting situation where the lawsuits would not hold up. In terms of a competitive on the field issue, this is something that the NCAA actually can penalize and would have the ability to do so and let that hold up in court. A competitive issue is something they can penalize.
It shouldn't be something that you worry about. Like you should be able to have some trust that they're going to do the right thing. But as I've joked before, not really joked, the NCAA, not consistent at all. Like you don't know what you're going to get. But the expectation from the Ohio State side has still been that there is going to be some significant ramifications for what happened last year. But I don't know that even if Michigan loses scholarships or games are, whatever, like they still won the national championship. Like that's not going to be taken away. That has nothing to do with the NCAA. The CFP can make their own rules. Like that's not going to impact that. So
I don't think it
doesn't matter anyway.
It doesn't matter. We all games. If games are not vacated or forfeited from this, then there is no penalty from ever cheating ever again.
What would it matter? The only penalty
because the right thing is still doing the right thing, even if it's at the wrong time.
One fart of a punishment.
Bill went right back to the farts. Unbelievable.
He told you to buckle up.
That's what we call a throwback. That's what we call a recall.
I think they perhaps shielded them, whatever it's going to be. Maybe Michigan shielded itself from something worse by Jim Harbaugh not being there anymore.
Certainly. But it's also like they're rubbing it in the NCAA's face when you have Connor Stallions doing a Netflix special.
Yeah.
It's called a callback, not a recall.
A recall. Total recall back.
And breaks, he said.
Road breaks.
Card Collector 2. Going to be in Cleveland, the National, this week. Bill and I will be there on Friday, maybe Saturday. We'll see what happens. But the shop is in Grove City. Great guy, great people, great staff, and great cards down there. Appreciate him sending us with some Panini Contenders 2023. It went better.
Great box.
For these two. Oh, Sperm actually says that it went well.
Hey, you had a good time.
Yeah.
You got a redemption?
I mean, I'm just glad that you two had a great time. That's all that really matters.
I don't need to keep this in good shape, right? I mean, I can bend the corners and
sleeve it up. Maybe.
Cool.
I'll take it from you, no problem. But we appreciate, as Berm said, those of you who had 10 minutes notice and you sent us a question, we appreciate you. We are thrilled to be back on the road, doing road breaks, and ready to cover this 2024 season. Full coverage coming your way from Indianapolis, Big Ten Media Days, Ohio State on Tuesday. Bill and Doug will have stuff on Kings of the North all week long. So ball is back, and we're excited for it. Thanks for joining us for Road Breaks. That's Berm and Bill. I'm Austin. So long.